Hello everyone and welcome back to another movie review. Today is part 2 of my double feature for the Kill Bill series by Quentin Tarantino. And now I'm going to be reviewing Kill Bill Volume 2, the last in the two-part series, which, oh boy, this movie let me down. I had heard from one of my friends that this was his favorite of the two, and it had been before I had heard anyone else's opinions on it. And I myself had, if you watch my other video, I loved Volume 1. So I was incredibly excited for Volume 2. I thought it would just expand on all the things I loved about it. The color, the pacing, the fights, the subtle storytelling. But, I think I might have expected a little, set my expectations a little bit differently. But I ended up not really enjoying this movie as much. So let's start off with a summary. The story of the bride who was shot in the head and is now going on her journey to get revenge on her assassin friends who killed her and put her in a coma, is now continued in Volume 2, where she has killed three of those members, and now she is going to kill Bill. And this is I think the idea of the two-part movie, or the Volume 1 and Volume 2, is that it is one story broken up in two parts, clearly. But what they did, instead of breaking it chronologically into two parts, like clearly chronologically, is they split the action and the story into two parts. It still is chronological, but the most important part is that they put Volume 1 is action and Volume 2 is clarifying what happened and slowing down the pace and doing the real emotional storytelling. Now, there were some good parts in this movie, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of memorable scenes. There is amazing soundtrack, which I forgot to mention in the first one, but that has an amazing soundtrack as well. They also have great editing with the changing the aspect ratio for focus on things, which also gives it a slight comic book feel. This movie is far less comic book, which might have been why I didn't like it as much. And it also, the best part is that it personalizes the characters that we were introduced to in the first one. It also brings in Bill, who we did not really know anything about in Volume 1. But it gives them more characterization. But the real downside of this movie, and I think I'm going to be more negative than I really should be, but because I enjoyed Volume 1 so much, this kind of let me down, as I've said. This movie has a far less emphasis on color, which, as I said in my other review, color is what I really look for. That really was what surprised me and made me like Volume 1 so much. And when they sort of tone down the color, it's less flashy, it's more gritty, and it's out in the desert a lot, and people aren't wearing their colorful clothes, and the environments aren't as abstract. It brought the tone down so much for me that really bummed me out. I mean, that's a nitpick overall, but personally, I love the color so much that the lack of it killed some of the tone for me. This movie is also about 95% story and 5% action. There is about 1.5 fights in this entire movie total, and I have no idea why they thought that there should be such a stark contrast between Volume 1 and 2. I feel like it would have helped me enjoy the series more overall if they had put more emphasis on action in Volume 1, but still, they could have had like maybe 3 or so fights in this, and I think it would have helped balance out the duology quite a bit more. The first fight doesn't happen until over an hour, like an hour and 15 minutes into the movie, and that really surprised me because I was just waiting for something crazy to happen, because Volume 1, you get straight into it. Bloody, and then fight sequence, and then story, and then fight, story, fight, story, fight. And this is story, fight a little bit in the middle, and then some weird shit happens, and then story till the end. The last bit is there's a tiny spike of fight, but it's like 1 minute, so that's what my 0.5 was. So I think that was really just an artistic choice, is breaking this story up into more action focused and a more character focused parts. But because I enjoyed so much of the action in Volume 1, this disappointed me. And I think that's the best way I can describe this movie, is a disappointment, because even though I did enjoy the story overall, I expected more out of it in the departments I enjoyed so much of in Volume 1. And also, this is one thing that I really was confused by. The emphasis in Volume 1 on not giving the bride's name is so interesting as a character quirk that she has through the storytelling, that it surprised me. About halfway through, they reveal her name like it's nothing. And that left me actually scratching my head. I was so confused that it was such a big and interesting deal in the first one, and then they just went out and said it, and it wasn't even that big a deal. They just left it there and then used it the rest of the movie. And I wish they had made that a little more important. Like, if she had well, I guess she couldn't really freak out since everyone knows her name in the story, but we didn't. But I think there could have been a more emphasis on the name reveal, like tension building up to it. This is much slower paced, and yeah, that's really all I can say. I do want to end on a happy note, since I ended on a bad note last time. I have one more positive thing. The credit sequence in this movie is incredible. It goes through basically every character that was in both movies, which is crazy. But I loved it. It was sort of a summary of all the things that our characters have gone through, and every side character they met along the way. And I loved that part. It brought my my happiness level up a little bit at the end. But overall, I'm going to give this movie 3 stars. It was quality in its storytelling, but I expected more Kill Bill out of it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed my Kill Bill double feature, and I will see you guys in another review tomorrow. See you next time. Bye.